We're ready to get started. I'm trying to turn my phone down so there's no more interruptions on my part. All right, good evening, everyone. Good evening. My name is Steve Arlinghouse, the Executive Director here at the Housing Authority of Covington. I'm going to have all of the folks at the table here introduce themselves so to give an idea of who we all are here and our roles with the Housing Authority. Thank you.
Hi, good evening. Thanks for coming tonight. I'm Chris Bradburn. I'm the Deputy Director.
Hey everybody, we're so glad you're here tonight. I'm John Atkins, I'm the Director of Resident Services.
I'm Shannon Wilson, the Senior Housing Manager.
And I'm Diana Strauss. I'll be your relocation specialist.
Okay, thank you very much. I also have one other person here. I'd like to have her introduce herself to you.
Hi, my name is Kim Phillips. I'm the program coordinator for the City of Covington's voucher program.
All right, thank you, Kim. All right, everyone, you know, we've been trying to meet with everyone for the past, off and on for the past couple of years now. So there's no surprises as to what's going on. Just let you know that about a week and a half ago or so, the federal government gave us the go-ahead and move forward with the disposition of City Heights. And that's why we're here today, to talk about what our next steps are and how we move forward with this whole process. The one thing I can say for sure is that the Housing Authority, our staff here, and others that aren't here, will be working very closely with each of you to move forward with developing what the process will be, how the relocation plans will work, and to keep everybody in the loop the entire process moving forward. In the meantime, the City of Covington will be working with us, and this is Kim's department in particular. They'll be working with us directly to make an application to HUD in Washington regarding the vouchers that we are to receive to support everyone's relocation efforts. The typical vouchers that would be received here, usually, if you had a normal voucher, if you applied for Section 8 housing somewhere here in Kenton County, the City of Covington would be the organization that you would go through to make that application, and then you could look for locating yourself somewhere here within Kenton County, whether it be Covington, Erlanger, Ellesmere, Park Hills, or wherever. The vouchers that we're going to be receiving, though, are called tenant protection vouchers. A whole different voucher altogether, completely different than your typical vouchers. And what these vouchers will do is allow you as an individual, and you'll take your family, and you'll be able to relocate anywhere within the United States that you wish to move to. So these vouchers are very special. And the reason they are special, especially in this case here, is we know from past surveys that approximately 1/3 of all of our residents, for example, came from Cincinnati, Ohio. And during the surveys that we also had conducted, a number of people had expressed a desire to go back to Cincinnati rather than go someplace else. So these types of vouchers will give you priority to be able to move back to Cincinnati or wherever your final destination may be. We know that this process is going to be a lengthy process. It's not going to happen overnight. Our goal is, when we talked with HUD about this, but our goal was to try to work with 10 families per month as far as relocating goes. So we have, with 366 units, 10 per month, is how we came up with the estimate of being 3 years for this whole process to evolve before we finally get to reach the end of this. All right, so we do, excuse me. We know we have a process here. The City of Covington, for example, when they apply to HUD for these special vouchers, they have to wait between 30 and 60 days before they can even apply. So once that application is in, and then the federal government approves that, we could still be looking at December or even February of next year before we receive the final approval, if you will, our first set of vouchers, as you might say. Can I steal that? Excuse me. I owe her a bottle of water. So the process, we don't have all of the specific details yet. Because once the city applies for these vouchers, we know that the process will be approved. We don't know how fast it will be approved. And we also don't know how fast those vouchers will become available to us. So there's a waiting period in here that we're gonna have to deal with, and then we just have to keep you all informed as we know. So with that, before I go coughing any further, I'm gonna give this over to Chris, because she's in charge of the Jobs Plus program here for the City Heights residents, and very successful program, I might add. And she's going to fill you in on the status of how that will work in this whole process as well.
Good evening, everybody. We've asked throughout the sessions we've had about, how many of you are enrolled in Jobs Plus, otherwise known as City Futures, how many are actively working with the Brighton Center or have actively worked with the Brighton Center in the past. Those of you who are working with the Brighton Center and enrolled in the Jobs Plus program, you're actually not the first group to be relocated. We want to see the grant through to its completion, through its final term. And so that is really not until December of 2022. And so you have the option to just stay exactly where you are, keep working on the program, keep working on your goals. And so that, unless you would come to us and say that you're interested in relocating sooner than that, you can assume that, you're gonna stay status quo. The group that we're actually focusing on to start relocating first will be our seniors, ages 62 and older. That group of people are not eligible for the Jobs Plus grant. And so it's, for all practical purposes, those in the Jobs Plus program will not be relocated for quite a while yet. Again, unless you volunteer that you would like to.
But what about the disabled?
I'm sorry?
We're gonna have questions and answers after we all gonna make this presentation, so just bear with us. Everyone will get a chance to respond or ask any questions. Also, I might add, when this event is over with, all of us up here will stay here as well to ask anybody, if anybody has any specific questions relative to them individually that they would like to talk about as well. We'll be here to answer additional questions, okay?
I just want to finish up by saying that, as we look to relocate families, we want you all to have as many options as you can. And the best way to do that is to prepare as much as possible financially. So we have the Brighton Center on site to work with families on credit, on, do you owe utility debt? Because when you move with a voucher, you have to be able to get utilities in your own name. And so we want you to be able to clear your debt, work with a coach if you need to, and come to us and work with Diana as our relocation specialist. Be honest about what your needs are, what your housing needs are for your families. And we're gonna have a lot of support, and John's gonna talk about that in just a minute, about all the support services that we will be offering you through this whole process.
All right, thank you, Chris. There's gonna be a lot of questions. I can assure you that this is our fourth meeting so far, and each event has probably had about 30, 40 questions that we've tried to answer, and as best we can, answer those quite well, I think. There's a number of folks that have also expressed a desire to stay in public housing. And so we do have a couple of opportunities where we can work with individuals to stay in public housing for those who would like to. Golden Tower, for example, is a senior high-rise that we also offer to individuals, as well as, of course, we got Latonia Terrace. Latonia Terrace, for example, has approximately about 6 vacancies currently. We specifically have held them back from releasing them to help provide those as an opportunity for the folks that live in City Heights that want to stay in public housing. The only problem we have with that, with Latonia, is that we typically have 1 to 2 vacancies per month. So we can only help so many folks that want to stay within within public housing, but we'll continue to work with you all on that. When Chris mentioned Diana, for example, it's going to be very important to share as much information as you can with Diana, because everyone's situation is going to be a little bit different, a little bit more unique to each of you. And so we want to try to fine tune this as best we can to be of assistance to each and every family. It was mentioned, Chris mentioned also about the current bills that you may have. As for example, if you owe Duke Energy, let's say you have an outstanding bill from 3 years ago with Duke Energy for $300. Our goal is to work with the Brighton Center, other agencies as well, and ourselves to see what we can do to try to offset that debt that's owed, possibly acquire some additional funding where we can pay that debt off on your behalf. So we have in the back some forms that are back here, and they are a release form. Oh, everyone has it. Okay, great. We need you to sign those release forms. Those release forms are the key to us helping you specifically with your individual needs. We can reach out. Duke Energy will not release information to us on how much someone owes unless we get a release from each and every one of you that allows us to gather that information from them and any other source of debt that may be out there. So our goal is to help each and every family as much as possible. We know from our previous survey we did, we had about 100 families that have already filled out this form. And between those, out of those that on there, I think it's about 30 people that owe a total of about $40,000. All right, so Duke Energy's aware of that, we're aware of that, and our goal is to say, how can we find the funding to take care of those debts on your behalf? So we're going to work very closely with each and every family. It's very important, very critical that when you do have a chance to meet with Diana, that you give her all the information you possibly can about your unique needs for yourself and your family. Diana, we will be in an office here at 2401 Todd, at the very end of the street here on the last unit on the left, where Miss Billy used to live. We are going to make that unit available for all of the residents here, so she will be on call. She will be here. To start off with, she'll be here like Monday through Friday, and we're anticipating on her being here like 8 hours a day for that each week as needed. We'll scale back that time as needed. So it's also handicap accessible, but there also may be situations where someone's disabled, is unable to make it down there, and you'll just have to reach out to Diana in her office, and we'll make arrangements for her to come see you. All right, so that's another thing that we're going to do to try to help you with that. What else was there with the? Oh yeah, and if there's someone else can't make the shift that's available Monday through Friday, and let's say you're working those hours or wherever the case may be, and say I can't make it, but I can do it at nighttime at 6 o'clock, or I could maybe I can make one other day or something like that. We'll make arrangements with you to try to do something at your convenience. All right, so we will do that and work out the best we can. The other question we have a lot from that people have asked about is relocation money. How's that going to work? We are tied to the Kentucky Department of Transportation's schedule of relocation. So the state of Kentucky already has a process in place with dollar figures associated with it. As an example, a 3-room apartment, for example, will be entitled to $1,100 for that move. That $1,100 will pay for your moving expense. So we're looking to put out an RFP, a request for proposal from moving companies to find out who will give us the best deal moving a family from point A to point B. So we're going to try to get that in line, and then what we'll do is that fee will be paid for out of your relocation money. So if we get a deal for $400, we'll deduct it from the $1,100. You would keep the $700. On the flip side, if you have family members, for example, that we do know a lot of people have friends and relatives that have a pickup truck or whatever, and say, hey, my brother, my sister, my cousins, whoever, my friends, they'll move us, and they'll move a grill out that night. Well, we'll pay you the entire amount, and you can keep it, every amount, every penny of it. So what happens is we give you half of the money up front. Your family would move you through to the next location, and then we would give you the balance of that money once you have completed that move and have vacated the apartment in the condition that it was when you moved in, more or less. It's less normal wear and tear. So let's talk about normal wear and tear for just a second. Normal wear and tear is if you have paint peeling off the wall, or where there was a water leak from a bathroom upstairs above and it was caused, and you didn't have nothing to do with it. Those things like that would be considered normal wear and tear. The unit needing paint, clean, things of that nature is considered normal wear and tear. If on the other hand we find holes punched in the wall or doors hanging off their hinges, that's not normal wear and tear. And then you'd be responsible for the cost of those repairs, all right? Let me see here. Oh, yeah. And on the deposits, the other question has been about, what about my deposit? When you're in good standing, meaning your rent is paid up, your apartment's clean like it's supposed to be clean, you don't owe any other debt for any other purposes whatsoever, you will get your full deposit back, and you can take that deposit with you to your next location wherever you move to. So that would be passed along to you. I want to emphasize the word of good standing though. Good standing means you don't owe any rent, you don't have any other defaults, you're not under the notice to be vacated. Those are considered within good standings. So those of you who are behind on your rent, you make sure you stay on top of your rent, keep it paid, so you don't have any problems. Otherwise, we will not be able to assist you with this move. So it's very important to stay in good standing. With that, I'm going to turn this over to Kim Phillips and let Kim address issues regarding the Section 8 Housing Choice Voucher Program, because often we're asked questions about that, and we only have limited answers because it's not our department, but she's in charge of the Housing Choice Voucher for the city of Covington, and she'll address some issues here, and then again, she'll be here afterwards, like the rest of us, to answer any questions.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for coming. As Steve said, my name is Kim Phillips. I work at the City of Covington, and I'm the program coordinator for the voucher program. So what is going to happen is all of you folks, as long as you remain in good standing, will be eligible for vouchers. So the first thing I'll kind of do quickly is explain what a voucher is and how it works. It's a rental assistance program that's tied to the tenant, not the unit. So you would take your assistance, and it's your job, once you receive your voucher, to find your own house or apartment. We have families who live in single-family dwellings, apartment complexes, 2 families. We even have a few people who live in mobile homes. Our jurisdiction's all of Kenton County, so you can find a house or apartment anywhere in Kenton County, and we'll take care of you in our office. However, Section 8 is good in all 50 states, Puerto Rico, and the U.S. Virgin Islands. Those are U.S. held territories, so you would have the ability to transfer your assistance to any agency that you wish. Before you can do that, however, how the process will work is, once you receive your 90-day notice, that is when you'll be invited to a briefing session. So I probably wouldn't go ahead and find a house or apartment now, because you don't know where you are on the schedule. So once you receive your 90-day notice, you will come to an orientation session with the Section 8 office. You'll be required to furnish some information, so we'll talk about that now. These are some things you can do now. You want to go ahead and get all of your verifications together. So you'll have to provide birth certificates, social security cards, and you'll have to have a valid picture ID. If you were born in Kentucky or Ohio, or your children were, and you don't have birth certificates, I have some applications here. I'll be happy to give them to you, just so you can get to working on that. Once you once you come in and you have all your verifications, you'll receive a voucher. That's when your search time starts. So everybody will be on a different schedule. We don't know when you'll come in, but that's when it'll be your job to kind of find housing. So in the meantime, there are a few things that you can do. First one being, work on getting together your verifications, look around for everything. Make sure you stay in good standing, make sure you're paying your rent, make sure you're up to date on work orders, on recertifications. You don't wanna lose out on this opportunity for a technicality. And lastly, as Steve's already mentioned, and Chris, you wanna make sure that you don't have an outstanding utility bill. Most of the properties that you find on Section 8, the landlord will expect you to be able to get these utilities on and in your name. So if you know you have a bill, or if you think you have a bill, it's probably something that you wanna go ahead and get to working on now.
Hey, can I ask you a question?
Yes, ma'am.
Hey, I'm just saying, I have an application for pathway court in Rossville. And I can very see how to put them out, can I come to money out of put them out early? Or should I have somebody else?
You could, well, La Salette, they have their own section for their own rental assistance, so you wouldn't live with La Salette and use your voucher. So if you wanted to live in La Salette, that would just be an application you'd have to complete and turn into
Okay,
bid.
what about pathway court?
We do have a lot of families who live in Hathaway Court.
I'm just saying about myself.
Yeah, we have a lot of our people who are in Section 8 who live in Hathaway Court. Some very familiar with the building. I mean, what you could do, I guess, is talk to the relocation manager to see if she's able to assist you in completing your application
I
for.
can't see it.
Yes, ma'am. I mean, you might come to us yet because you don't have your voucher yet.
No.
So,
Just take a mental note, she says she can see the application, so somebody can get in there and read it, so that we can. So they're gonna give somebody in
Ma'am, that Diana Strauss up here. Diana, take your face mask down so everybody can see your face.
Almost there.
This pretty young lady right here, she will be in charge to work with every individual family that lives in City Heights. Any needs that you have, regardless of how special the needs you need, she will help you. You have to talk to her. Anything you need, that's our goal, to work with you as much as possible to make everything smooth as possible for you. This is not gonna be a perfectly run operation. We're going to make some missteps here. And, but this is a big undertaking, a very big undertaking. This is not easy to be doing this. So we're gonna have to do it slowly, we're gonna do it right. We're gonna make sure that everyone is treated fairly as possible. And that's our goal, is to care about the families and children that live here. So we're not gonna rush through this process. I think it's also important to note that the goal is the 90 days we speak about for finding a place to move to. We do know that some people will not be able to find something necessarily in the 90 days. So we're going to have to be patient about that. We're going to have to probably extend that time frame for some families. It might be 120 days. What we'll ask you to probably do is, we don't have all details, but if you haven't been able to find a place, we're going to have to stay in touch with Diana to let her know, look, I've been here, here, and here. I've made these applications, and I haven't heard anything from anybody yet. Also, as Kim had noted earlier today in the previous meeting, the city of Covington has a list of landlords that accept Section 8 housing today. But on the flip side is, there's a lot of landlords, if they don't accept Section 8 housing, you're allowed to ask them, hey, would you consider signing up to be a part of the Section 8 program? And you just don't know. Some of these landlords may say yes, some may say no. If they say yes, then Kim will have a process for them to let her and her staff come through, do an inspection of the unit, make sure it passes code, and then she can approve those landlords to be on Section 8. So just because they may not take Section 8 housing today, they may tomorrow if you ask them. And then we'll work with you, Section 8 will work with you, we'll all be working together. This is gonna be a team effort. So we're not gonna leave anyone behind and left with no place to go and no place to get there, no way to get there.
Right, because I'm only one person, you know.
Well, you have a unique situation, but again, we have probably 50 people that live up here that have unique situations, to each of their own. And so we know we're gonna be encountering different problems, and some people, it might take us longer to work through the process. But we will, I assure you, we will do everything in our power to assist you in every way, shape, we can. With that, I'm gonna turn this over to John Atkins, and he's gonna talk about about his services.
Thanks, Steve. So I think it's pretty clear, and if not, I just want to echo some of his sentiments that we are working with you. We recognize that this is a hard situation. We recognize this is stressful. A lot of anxiety comes with it, potential trauma, things of that nature. And we don't want that, and we are going to work with you step by step to ensure every situation is taken care of with you, okay? So whether that's working with you to make sure that you get to the city of your choosing, we're going to help with that. If that means we're going to help you with your kids to make sure that they're stable in a school system, we're going to do that as well. We met with Covington Independent Public Schools today to start planning out how we can put together a transition plan for a lot of our kids. We have almost 350 kids in this community alone that are school-aged children. It's a lot of kids, right? It's a lot of kids. We have a responsibility to make sure these kids transition well, and we are here to do that, I can assure you of that. We're also here to assist in facilitating any reasonable accommodations. Steve spoke on that just a little bit. If we need to meet you at a different place or a different time, we will provide that reasonable accommodation. If there's specific needs that you have, we will try our best to do everything in our power to really meet those needs. But it's very important that you tell us up front exactly what you need when you meet with Diana Strauss, because how many knows we're not mind readers, right? And neither are you, so we need to have that communication back and forth to know exactly what you are needing to do. If we have to meet with other community partners in Covington and Newport or in Cincinnati, whatever we need to do, we will certainly do that, I can assure you of that. And please know that the Resident Services Department, City Futures, Stable Families, they're going to be on site at all times to help you transition with this. So if you don't see one of us, you're going to see a staff member. Please grab them and say, hey, I need you. I need to talk to you. I need some support in this area. We're going to be doing that. Also, this is our 4th meeting since Thursday, right? This is not going to be the last time you're going to see us. We're going to continue having meetings in the future because we want you to be informed. We want to be transparent. We want to tell you everything that we know. I can assure you we're not hiding anything. Every bit of information we know, we are going to be portraying that information to you. So future meetings will be held in the future. We're going to be doing articles and upcoming newsletters, rent statements, things of that nature. Also on Facebook. If you haven't liked the Housing Authority of Covington Facebook, make sure you do that today, because that's a great vehicle for us to let you know what's going on, and you can stay informed that way as well. One other piece of information I want to share with you as well. When something like this big is going on, there's a lot of misinformation that's out there. People will misinterpret things, and media says one thing, but the reality is one thing. I want you to know, because this is so important to all of us, because it doesn't affect just one person, it affects everybody. And we want you to know the real information. So we encourage you to go to our website at hacov.org to really look at that website and really figure out all the information that we're sharing with you. And we promise we will let you know what's going on. But please be aware that there is misinformation out there. And if you need to know an answer, call us, email us, stop by. We will let you know what's going on, because we want you to know the truth in every essence, okay? And I don't want to sound like a broken record, but once again, make sure you fill out this authorization form so we can help you. That's another support that we're trying to give you, okay? One other piece of support we're trying to give you is the Healthy at Home eviction relief form, okay? And Shannon Wilson's going to talk a little bit about that.
So like John said, the Healthy at Home is through the Kentucky Housing Corporation in the state of Kentucky. And what it is just to help people avoid eviction. So if you're behind on rent, there's a couple handouts that Debbie gave you all as you came in. You can apply for the assistance, and if you apply, please let the property managers know so that we can do our side of the application. And Trish can be available to help you all with that as well as any of us. So if you need any assistance with it, just let us know.
Alrighty. Thank you, John. Thank you, Shannon. So, it's very important, the HERF program that she was talking about. If you need any help filling it out, check with our managers. They'll be glad to work with you to help you walk you through it. I know some folks that said they didn't have internet or connectivity, they didn't have computers. You know, all the internet up here is free. It'll still be free through this whole time frame. We paid for that already in advance. If you don't have a computer, work with our managers, they'll help you. Go to the Brighton Center's offices up here, City Futures, they'll help you up there. The Lycan County Library, for example, has free computers for board games as well. So again, whatever way we can help you, we will do that. With that, I think we've covered that. Everything we have covered at this point. Like I said, you're the best person up here at this table that you're going to want to see on a daily basis is at the end of the table right here. Diana is going to be your lifeline for everything that we need to help you with. But please, please fill out those forms so we can at least verify whether you owe any monies out there or not. What we don't want to do is try to find out that we need $100,000 and all of a sudden then we get 6 people come straggling in at the last minute to fill them out and say, oh, I need $500, but we don't have it there. We didn't request that because we only requested what numbers we knew what people had. So please, please fill out those forms. You don't have to bring them here tonight, but sometime today, tomorrow, this week, if you can, fill them out, get dropped off with the property managers up there. With that, we're going to open this up to any questions that y'all might have. And yes, ma'am?
Ken, housing has copies of our social security card, our birth certificate, for when we applied at the beginning. Can we just move them over to the other program?
We have some information on everybody here today already. And that, Diana will have access to all that information. So some of the information, we won't need it anymore. But there may be an update and change in your status as a, where you're employed at. Your wages may be different. How that would impact, Section 8 is still structured the same as we are with public housing. It's still based on your income, so.
No, I mean, when you accept copies of our birth certificate, will you accept a copy of our social security?
Oh, copies, well, you accept copies of birth certificate, that's Kim's answer.
It just depends. Sometimes we can't read the copy, especially picture IDs could be expired. You could have had another child in the meantime, people could have moved in or moved out. So I'm not saying that we won't, we just need to look at it, but a lot of you guys already have this stuff, or you have a long time to get it together. It would really be on a case-by-case basis. I've seen some copies, we can't read the numbers on social security cards, or we can't read the information on the birth certificate, so I don't wanna say yeah, and then you get caught up because we don't have it. So the best I can tell you is I will go ahead and get prepared. You guys have a long time to get this together, so really there's not really any good reason for you guys not to have anything that you think we might need. If you want to, in advance, request the information on your housing file, I would encourage you to do so that you can look at it yourself. I mean, it's hard to say without seeing it. We've seen some that we've taken, but I'm not gonna lie, we've seen some, if we can't read it, we can't take it. And sometimes when stuff's copies of copies, or things are run off papers or stuff like that, I'm just gonna be honest with you, if something's cut off, we can't take it. So you guys have a long time to get this together, so really, if your housing is important to you and you guys wanna do a good job and you wanna make this the best you can, get to working on it. Like I said, even if that means requesting copies, so you can see what they look like. I wouldn't wait till the last minute and then be caught out, seeing that it's not good, or seeing that you never gave them that last social security card, or something weird like that, So, but I don't wanna obligate to them and have 300 people come in tomorrow to get everything in a file. So you guys got a long time to work on it, so I get you working on it. That's the best I can tell you.
Excuse me, what you said a long time.
I mean, you at least have a few months. You would at least have a few months even for the first people before they'll remember.
And just while we're talking about at this point, we talked about Diana will be up here at 2401 Todd. She probably will not be officially in that office until closer to the end of November. So she's not gonna be there for the next few weeks, but eventually, she will be there, and we anticipate around, give or take, at the end of November. So, but again, to Kim's point, there's a lot of information that you all can check out on your own right now, and look for what you need in the way of documentation, so when that day comes, that you've got it in hand already.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
What's your name?
I'm Steve Arlinghouse, I'm the Executive Director of the Housing Authority.
Okay, I didn't know.
I guess I didn't say my name at the beginning, I'm sorry. I think I'd also point out that each of these meetings that we've had hosted so far, which is the fourth one, we have Laura in the back, and she is videotaping this event. So if you go to our website, you'll be able to revisit this entire meeting and hear everything that was said. Because a lot of times, again, we're giving you a lot of information. And to have everything specific to detail up front is not necessarily, I can't remember everything I said this morning, and I'm sure I forgot some things. But you can always go to the website, and we'll have each of these meetings we posted on there, so you can watch the one that was here, or you can watch the previous video as well. So again, I think John's gonna also, when we do handouts throughout the community to try to stay in touch, he's going to put information out specific to this process on orange paper. Is that correct?
That's correct, yes.
Okay, so if you see orange paper in your mailboxes, pay close attention to that orange paper. It's going to be related to what's happening here with this process. So again, between what we hand out in the way of newsletters or flyers, keep things posted on our website, we're going to try to keep things updated as much as possible so that you can follow along as we're moving along as well. And if there's some questions, again, you all have any questions tomorrow or next week that we didn't think about, and feel free to email it to us or make a phone call to us. And we can answer that question.
So, you said you'll help us give out the, new for the house. Have you thought about trying to reach out to people because we have a housing purpose, so they're not just, or maybe the local, or someone that wants to stay in the housing authority?
That's a great question, but let me answer before you go to the other questions. We talk about public housing that's outside of this area, and there is nothing that stops you from applying elsewhere. We have reached out to Cincinnati Metropolitan Housing. They already have agreed as well to work with us as closely as possible. They're very aware of what's going on. We have reached out to Newport, Campbell County, Boone County, and we've let them know what's going on as well. So they're all in contact. Did we reach out to Dayton, Kentucky? No, we didn't reach out to Dayton. We didn't reach out. They're still, they're.
For the housing authority, for like the house, like, interiors, or have reached out to any of the folks that want to stay inside of housing, they don't want to be out. Because we're able to reach out to any of the other ones, Lions here down the road, and say, hey, maybe some of our residents want to come down there, and they don't want to get in section of council, but we have housing. You guys got a couple of residents that we can get. So our family might want to be on it. I'm saying, is that something we can think about, and,
There's nothing that prevents us from trying to reach out to other jurisdictions outside of this area. As far as that goes, again, like I said at the very beginning, we are going to take the next several weeks to validate all the plans that we're talking about here and ideas that are being brought up before us. How can we work better to solve some of the problems we're dealing with right here? And we don't have all the answers tonight. We still have a lot more to work on. That's part of the reason why we're having these early meetings, if you will. We knew that in some respects that we don't have a lot of answers yet. But by the same token, because it was announced a week and a half ago that we were approved for public housing, we sure didn't want to not have any meetings for another 2 or 3 weeks, because then everybody would be saying, well, the housing authority is not doing anything. So we kind of jumped the gun and we came here early, and we're just trying to give you as much updated information as we can today. Our job is far from done. We have a lot more homework to do on our end. But again, stay in touch because we will be updating on our website as much as possible.
you said the money's coming from who?
For the the Department of Transportation, it's their relocation policy. It's not their money, it's our money It's their policy in the state of Kentucky. No. We're using, we had to come up with a guide to say, how are you gonna justify a number? Because the state of Kentucky uses it across, anytime they have to take someone's house for a new road or whatever, it's recommended that we follow the Department of Transportation. So that's what we're doing. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, why would we pay for damages to an apartment if they're being torn down?
I'm
If
sorry,
we move
I
out?
didn't get a question.
While when we move out, we have to make sure that we pay for any damages we did to the apartment. Why is that if they're being demolished?
Right, okay. So the comment is about damages to the apartments. Why do you have to pay for them? All I can say is, this is not my policy. The Housing and Urban Development, HUD's policy. And so if it's government policy that we have to abide by, then we have to abide by it. I don't agree with the policy. However, Chris wants to address this as well.
Hi, so really the long and short of it is, as long as people are housed here, HUD is going to continue to inspect our units. They're going to continue to hold us to a higher standard of, safety, and that things are in good order. And so, if they walk into a unit, there's holes everywhere and doors are hanging off the hinges, that's gonna be a problem, because you guys are gonna be up here still potentially up to another 3 or more years.
Yeah, I know while we're living there, of course, we pay for whatever we care about or whatever. But if we're moving out and they're getting torn down, that's just crazy to pay for the damages.
Well, as a tenant, for lease compliance, you're still liable to take care of your unit.
I thought the same thing. Kind of silly to me.
And my question, I have a
But
question for you.
by the same token, if we have a dozen units that were in that condition and there's inspections done, then that comes back on us. And then we lose a part of our funding, which means we can't help you all as much as we can. You guys are watching.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Y'all have done, inspected the people's house, housing units. And y'all have done charged them for that. What would be the validity in y'all accepting money for them to pay for y'all to keep their deposit?
Okay, so the question borders on, the work that's gotta be done and deposits that are associated with that. Let's say it this way, if a resident has $100 worth of damages when they go to move out, and they have a deposit of $400, we could just deduct that $100 out of that deposit and refund you the balance. That could be okay as well. So does that answer your question?
Well, what I'm saying is, if y'all done took it out to rent, that they didn't pay.
So she's saying that we've already been charged, whether it was a work order,
What would be the
why
validity
do
in
it now
y'all
again,
taking it out?
It's, if I understand your question correctly, I mean, the bottom line is, at every given point in time, you're still responsible for your unit at the end of the day. It doesn't matter if it's yesterday or tomorrow or next month. So when those, we do inspections now. I'm not sure exactly how many we do per week, but we are going through, and we have found some apartments, quite frankly, that are very well kept. And we have come across some that are deplorable at best. We have some residents who are as clean as a whistle, and the only reason they have any cockroaches or any rodents of any kind whatsoever is because of a neighbor that is filthy as can be, and they don't care what their apartment looks like, and they don't care the impact it has on someone next door.
Well, my brother
So-
paid rent.
All right.
They really did.
All right, any other questions?
I have a question, comment. For the individuals, you already have a cover principles there.
Yes.
So
You wanna introduce yourself?
Yes, it is, Jerome Bowles, president of ACT.
Come on. You need the microphone here.
Thank you very much, and thank you to the Housing Authority and Housing Authority staff, and thank you, staff for being here tonight. Jerome Bowles, North President, Northern Kentucky NAACP. I just have a couple of questions, particularly in education and the number of students who attend Covington schools. How hard are you all gonna work to ensure that those students remain in the school district? Because losing, students causes a reduction in, funding, state funding for our schools, particularly in Covington. Because everything is based on average daily attendance, so if you uproot those students from the school district and you send them somewhere else, after they move out of the city, it has an adverse effect on funding for the schools. In addition to that, the other question is, going back to this young lady's question regarding, fees that have to be paid for damage. Now, I understand what you all are saying about the housing for the federal government's policy, but if you all come up with language to submit to HUD to justify tearing down this, complex, then I'm gonna ask you all to come up with some language to, present to HUD regarding wiping out any existing account or any existing damage that anybody has in these apartments, so they can start fresh. Because I think y'all have the will to do that, to wipe out any existing debt that anybody may have accumulated over the years, even potential damage that they currently have in their apartment, no matter what it is. Give these individuals an opportunity to have a fresh start and don't hold anything against them that can be, have an adverse effect on them receiving full, deposit or whatever else they need to transition. You know, so, and the last thing is, have y'all done any is there any data that you all can, provide showing how many residents want to remain in Covington that live up here? You know, want to remain in Covington in particular. I'm not saying move anywhere else, I'm saying move into Covington.
All right, thank you, Jerome. Let me unpack this, got a lot of questions in there. Let's first talk about the Covington Independent Schools. Chris and John and myself met with the superintendent and some other staff members for Covington Schools, and we expressed our desire to work with them and our children that we have here at City Heights. They have in essence agreed that they will do everything in their power to work with us as well. Because we even brought up the possibility of what happens if we're near the end of the school year and a family moves from here to Erlanger. Is there a way that Covington Independent Schools can work with us to keep that child in Covington at schools to finish out that school year? And they are amicable to that idea. So we don't have all the details of how yet, but they're out of position, they believe that they can make that happen. So Covington Schools have vowed to work with us as much as possible. We've agreed to have quarterly meetings with them every 3 months. So that we're sharing information, giving them updates of where we are with everything in the whole process, so that the impact on our children is as minimal as possible. So they have assured us their willingness to work with us, and they will share information with us as well. The other question is about the wear and tear versus damages that have been accumulated over time. I don't set the rules or regulations on any of that stuff, none of us do here. I think it's a valid question that we could pose to HUD. What about someone's damages that have been done to the apartment? We expect to sell the properties off as is. Once we vacate everything, we're not gonna demo it. We're going to leave this to the next developer, whoever that might be, and their plans has to coincide with the zoning regulations of the city of Covington. So the city will dictate everything to the future of how that goes. When we had the physical needs assessment done for the property up here, they assessed the total value of this land up here at about $9 million. There's about 76 acres. They also estimated it's going to take about $3 million to demo everything that's existing here, netting $6 million. That $6 million it either has to go back to HUD in Washington, or we need to develop a useful plan that's acceptable to HUD of how we can keep that money. We have submitted to them a proposal that we are allowed to keep keep all the money. Part of that money we intend on using to upgrade our units at Golden Tower and Latonia Terrace. That's where a substantial portion of that money is intended for. We also will be having to build a new maintenance facility, because our current one is right below us here, and right next door underneath. And that, we're gonna have to have a new facility for maintenance somewhere in the city of Covington. So that's another part of some of the money we're earmarked for. We also have talked about the possibility of using some of those funds to purchase some additional land someplace else in Covington to perhaps build additional public housing type assistance homes, units someplace here, but only to the tune of maybe 65 or 70 or 75 units. And it might be targeted, we don't have plan yet, but it may be targeted towards seniors and veterans, for example. So those plans have not been vetted yet, so we still have ways to go with all of that. So that's something that we have to, again, to iron out all the specifics, plus anything we do in that area has to be approved by our board of directors.
That's the housing board of directors?
The Housing Authority's board of directors, correct. And for those who don't know it, just stand up a second. Penny Blevins, she is our current president for the resident council here at City Heights. So she is, we have had discussions with Penny as well in advance of these meetings, and some of the staff that her team. And so she is also pretty aware of what's going on. You see her in the neighborhood, ask her any questions you want. If she doesn't have an answer for you, she'll come to us as well, and she'll get those answers. So feel free to reach out to Penny, because right now she's been really a big asset to all of us and trying to stay in communication with everybody here. All right, so thank you, Penny. And Mr. Bowles, I forgot what your last question was.
How many residents want to stay?
Oh yeah, the data about how many residents want to stay in public housing, and how many want to stay in Covington in particular. We have, in our previous meetings that we've had, we did have surveys asking those types of questions. Unfortunately, we only have about 100 or so residents that respond to some of those surveys, so we don't have solid data on that. But again, we're going to, about half? Okay, so about half want to stay in Covington. And if that number rings true, then you're half the students here. But Covington schools are also aware of the numbers, and yes, there is an impact on their numbers as far as any state funding goes, but the biggest chunk of Covington schools' monies come from city taxes. They're city taxes that I pay and the others pay, and I pay a big chunk of money into the Covington Public Schools on tax bills. So it's pretty high. But we're going to continue to work on trying to gather all the data. We've got more surveys planned, and as we get that information together, with Diana's going to have some additional questions that she'll be asking folks as well, and we'll be gathering additional data, that whole process. So there's still things that we need to work on. There's still things we can improve on. And again, we're open to all suggestions that anybody has. You can email us, you can call us, you can text us a message, send us emails, questions through the website. I mean, there's a multitude of ways that you can reach out to us and ask any questions that you may have. We may not have all the answers today, but we'll continue to work on those answers. And as we get more questions, we're going to, again, put answers to some of these questions on top of the website, or in the orange flyer we're talking about that's going to be distributed as well. So we're going to walk with you hand in hand through this whole process. We're not going to be coming here today and gone tomorrow. So it's not going to happen.
One more thing. If you all consider, if you're receiving federal money from the federal government, which is that CARES money or anything like that, or maybe the city has, and if so, if the city has received CARES money or housing authority has received CARES money from the federal government, can you all consider shifting some of that money towards feeding to somebody they owe or anything like that, so they can not have to pay all those things? Because I think that's what's going to happen here. Part of the struggle is going to be you all coming to do your inspection, they can do a fine damage, and then folks not gonna get a deposit back, or gonna have gonna be a portion of deposit back, or gonna be other things associated with that. So trying to find some kind of way where individuals can, not have to pay that.
Mr. Bowles, that's precisely what we've been talking about. We've been talking about other sources of funding from a variety of folks, from a variety of programs, and we're gonna cover everything we can find, move every stone possible to find every dollar we can to help the residents. The city of Covington, I'm pretty sure, is on board as well to assist us with some level of funding. I don't have a dollar figure. They have not promised a dollar figure. We're not gonna know that until we can get the surveys back from everyone with the release of information, so we know how much money we're talking about in the first place. So that's why I'm trying to say it's so important that the residents sign those release forms to give us the opportunity to find out what debts are out there. We just can't assume that of a dollar figure without having some solid evidence and support from the residents that they can provide information. So the more information they can give us, obviously, the more we're gonna find all the help we can. We wanna see if we can wash away everybody's debts to get that fresh, clean start that you're talking about. That's part of our goal. I can't promise it though. I just can't promise. I wish I could. I'm not in a position to do that. My bank account won't handle it, I can tell you that much. Yes, sir.
I think, well, honestly, a couple of questions I heard asked here, if you want to ask, saying that, like, you find about holes in walls and things like that. I kind of understand what people are saying, but I also understand where you're coming from. Like, for example, if I have an apartment and you need a place to live, and I rent you, right? When I come in and show you the apartment, when you get in, there's no holes in the walls, there's none of that, you know, no stuff torn down, anything else. But when you go to move out, and there is holes in the walls and stuff, well, I can see the point with housing right there, saying, okay, well, what these holes in the wall, you know, what are these holes there for? They were not here when we moved in, you know? So why should it be your responsibility to pay for that?
That's correct. That's correct.
You know what I'm saying?
And that's the problem we have, and that's part of the problem with HUD's regulations.
Right.
But go ahead.
I've also lived in a couple different places, and I've lived around the country and the world, and I've seen where people moved into places, and it's like y'all say, with normal wear and tear, and when they go move out, it can look exactly the same as they moved in, if not even better, but then the landlord at the time said, oh, no, this, and you still don't get to the pot.
Sure. That's a fair statement, but we have, in this case here, everyone has to sign off on when they move into the apartments to make sure that they're in movable condition, you know, without any issues to deal with. If there is, then it's usually noted on the forms that they fill out, and then this is not working, needs to be fixed. Okay, so great. But yeah, as far as, and I think our staff realizes that when we talk about normal wear and tear, you know, if we see a scratch on the wall or crayon markings on the wall, you know, we gotta give and take a little bit here because of the situation at hand. We're not out to try to browbeat people and say, hey, we're gonna take advantage of every nickel we can. That's not gonna happen. So, yeah, we'll be given some generous leeways to that effect. But we can't afford to be abused.
Right.
That's part of the problem with
Well,
that.
they got different points in our life when we had kids in our house, our grandkids, raising our grandkids, right? And how they did, I don't know, but like you said, a door comes off the hinge, don't ask them, how did this happen? You know, and they're like, well, I don't know. But who's gonna pay for it? We do, you know, we get it fixed, we call housing and say, we need it fixed, we do what we gotta do to get it fixed. You know?
Yeah.
Now that right there, I can see not being normal wear and tear, because my kids done that, you know? They're not gonna.
Yes, ma'am.
I was gonna say something about, you said something about the people that want to stay over in the country. Talk about the people who want to leave Kentucky. Come and move, nothing to do with Kentucky.
Yeah, and we said to you that at the beginning, the first group that we intend on, excuse me, ma'am, if I may.
I'm sorry.
We said at the beginning that we plan on working with the senior citizens first. Then the last group that we're intending on working with are those who are in the Jobs Plus grant program with Chris's team and the City Futures group. Those in between, we don't have figured out exactly how we're going to categorize the next groups, okay? So, because there has been some interest in some folks saying, well, look, if you give me a voucher, I'm gone tomorrow. We want, in our surveys that we're trying to work on, we want that information. If there's a group that let's say there's 20 families that want to move tomorrow and nobody's run that survey, that voucher and get the heck out of here, we're gonna try to see if we can expedite that group. Okay, so again, when we get back to the point of when you have an opportunity to sit down with Diana and you make that point known to her, we're going to capture category of folks like you that would like to do that. So after the seniors and at the tail end, we're going to have the Jobs Plus program, and inside of that, we'll probably have 3 or 4 categories of how we're going to work with people. And that again is the development of next information that we have over the next several weeks. We don't have all those details. I wish we had that today. Yes, sir.
So, have you done a survey of the affordable housing or low-income housing in Canton County? Because if we're trying to see if it's even possible, what number of individuals even want to stay in Canton County if they could? Has that been done?
No, we don't have information on the numbers of affordable housing in Canton County. I can assure you this much. Affordable housing is probably, I think, is probably the biggest issues that we face in this country today. Unfortunately, I think there's a lot of people that agree with me on that, but there's a lot of people in Washington, D.C. that aren't hearing that message. And so that's a huge problem. Right now, as things exist, when HUD set up City Heights and all of public housing in Covington, at the time, it seemed like it was a great idea. Why? Because 70% of the population of Kenton County was in Covington in the 1930s. 70%. Today, it's about 30%. 30% of the population. And we cannot go with public housing. We cannot go outside of the Covington boundaries.
No, what I'm saying is that it sounds like you're saying really great things, and I like your plan. But the success hinges on the basis that there's affordable housing for individuals to go to. And there isn't. So,
and that's why we recognize the problem. That's why these vouchers, the tenant protection voucher, are so important, because we're hoping that there's a reasonable number of people that want to go back to where they originated from, whether it be Cincinnati or Dayton, Ohio, or Dayton, Kentucky, or wherever, so that not everybody's being dispersed in this area right here, because if we handed out 350 vouchers today and just gave them to everybody and said, here you go, good luck, it would be a disaster, because there's not that level of housing available today.
Is there any advocacy that you're doing to increase or support affordable or low-income housing in the area?
Well, this is where we're working with the city of Covington and trying their staff to try to help establish that. That's why we talked about before about trying to find a landlord. If you find a landlord that's out there that owns a property of whatever it might be, if you can talk to that landlord, see if they're willing to accept Section 8 housing. And if they are, then obviously, if they're willing to, then they can get signed up for Section 8 with Kim's office. So those are some of the avenues we're exploring. The city's got a list already of current landlords that do accept vouchers, not public housing, but vouchers. So we're trying to look at every angle we can as best we can. We set a best case scenario, 10 families per month. That is a very aggressive schedule. Honestly, I think it'll probably fall in the area of maybe 7 per month if we're actually able to help across the board. Also, what will reduce the numbers down here, and I might say, is we will still enforce all the rules and regulations here at City Heights. So if there's criminal activity going on in someone's unit with their family or whomever, you will still face an eviction for criminal activity. If you still do not pay your rent, now that the moratorium is gone, you still may face eviction for not paying the rent. So, our goal is to get rid of a lot of the criminal activity in particular. We want that off the hill as much as possible. The rest of the families that live here, the good families that live here, don't deserve that. And so that's something we'll stay on top of. So we'll still do our normal routine of regular, because this is still a 3 to 4 year operation. This is not gonna happen overnight. Yes, sir?
We don't have any way to, help people get back and forth, so they can find a place to go. Most people don't have no car. I see how the bus service is anyway. You know, bus pass where they can go and look for a place. I mean, you ain't even close on now.
Sure. That's a great question. That's an answer we don't have yet. But that's something we have talked about, like Chris is saying here. What about the families that don't have transportation? How are we gonna reach out? It's gonna be a combination of making phone calls, making appointments to go see a unit. And then we're gonna have to figure out how we can make that happen, whether we pay for cab fare for someone back and forth, or if we try to make arrangements with our staff to drive people from one point to another. If that happening, it's got to be close. It's got to be within close proximity. We're not gonna be driving somebody to Dayton, Ohio.
That's what I'm saying. I don't think nobody is society. That's why I said, gotta be used like some bus passes.
Well, yeah.
Or whatever, you know.
That's a good chance that that's how it may turn out. Bus passes or cab fare.
That's how we get back to the top now.
Yeah.
Long term. I am a first one over there, so.
Well, this is part of the reason why we, like Diana's gonna be here. Instead of, initially we talked about having her located in Golden Tire. That's why we do that. Let's bring her to where the people live, right here. So it's easy. Yeah. Yeah, we do provide transportation now for some programs and such, so it's conceivable we could work something out. Yes, ma'am.
Like, we got like, set up like appointments, with Diane?
With Diana, yes. When she gets settled into the office up here, we're gonna look at, try to figure out a method in which we can have people sign up to make an appointment. So we'll get with everybody on that, when we get to that point as far as developing a full plan. But that's one of those things you'll be notified in advance of, either on those orange flyers or on our website, or a combination. You may find flyers posted on the doors out here as well. So, and then she'll have a lot of information there at her unit when she's down there. Yes, ma'am.
You guys, keep saying the vouchers, special vouchers.
I'm sorry.
Special vouchers with the emphasis that you can move anywhere, but you can do that as long as you are a Pittman County resident for at least a year. So, I just really haven't heard anything that makes this voucher so special.
These vouchers are special because you can go anywhere in the United States, where the ones we have today, you're limited to staying in Kenton County.
No, you're not. If you're already a Pittman County resident for at least a year,
Here,
you can move anywhere.
Kim, you want to address some of those
Okay.
questions? Is that if you're in a year already that you can't much still work?
Because it's at the top of the list. Okay.
Okay, so with these vouchers, probably what, the best part is what calls them special. You don't have to wait on a waiting list.
That's what he
So
said.
how many people have applied for Section 8 and ever been on the list for longer than 6 months? Okay, how many people have applied for the list and never got called at all? All right, so with these vouchers, as soon as you're issued a 90-day notice, you're gonna get a briefing letter. So that's one of the good things. At the end of the day, it's the same assistance, but these are special for people who only live in City Heights. So from the word jump, you're gonna get this voucher. You're not gonna have to be on the list, you're not gonna have to, if you said you were, to come in, show pay stubs or anything like that. So as long as you're in good standing, when your 90-day notice is issued, we're gonna contact you, you're gonna come to orientation now. With that being said, when you come to orientation, you still have to show up, you have to attend orientation, you have to bring all of your verifications. They have to be in the format that we need, which means if you do work, you have to have a certain amount of pay stubs or food stamps or whatever. Then after that, you'll get the voucher, and after that, if you decide that you wish to transfer to another agency, that's when we'll talk about that. But the first thing everyone has to do, regardless of whether you want to stay or go, is come to our office and confirm your eligibility. So even though these are special vouchers, you still have the requirement that you're gonna have to be eligible for our program. So that's where getting all the verifications come in, and then after that, we can talk about where you'd like to leave and what the process is for leaving. So, ma'am in the back.
Will you all help? I see where you can bring to own. Can you use them vouchers to pay to rent to own your own place?
You cannot. We used to have a home ownership program, and it's not active right now in our voucher program. Pam, did you have a question?
With a restaurant, food stamps, whatever, showing that something, some type of income with the quicker you can get the voucher.
No, as soon as you, so the housing authority is gonna make a plan about how they're gonna vacate City Heights. So they're gonna make a plan, let's say whoever the next 10 people are in their plan, they're gonna give them what's called a 90-day notice. They're gonna share those names with us. We're gonna start working with you to get your voucher, to make sure you're eligible, and move you on if that's what you wish. So you don't have to prove special things, but you have to prove that you're program eligible, which means you provide your bank account, which means you provide your TANF letter, your award letter for Social Security. So anything that you have, you'll have to give to us, just so, even if you want to transfer to Cincinnati, those are things they're gonna expect and require, so we're gonna send that information if you want to go to Cincinnati. So we're gonna have it. Yes, sir.
Just wanted to piggyback on your question back there about bringing to own. If a property owner would accept that payment, did they not go through that process?
Right now, with our agency, you're not supposed to do rent to own. So that doesn't say that if you go to Cincinnati, that they have rent to own, or Campbell County or anywhere else. I can only speak for what we do for sure.
So that answer should be yes to her, right? But not in covenant.
Well, she's not come to the office and filled out her paperwork to confirm where she wants to go yet. So what if she found something next week and she wants to be in Covington? So I can only speak for us, and I think I'd be talking out of school to say what anybody else does anyplace else, just like I'll prefer them not to say what Kent County does.
Well, no, that's a great answer, but it's just, but you just said no, that she cannot do that, so.
I think I said our office doesn't do rent to own, was the way I prefaced the answer. So I'm not sure who's doing, homeownership right now and who's not. I know 15 or 20 years ago, everybody did it, but a lot of agencies have dropped off one by one, so I think right now, if I'm correct, there's one agency in Northern Kentucky that's doing it. I'm not sure who's doing it in Ohio. Sir, may I? Your question? We're not part of Brickstone, but, sorry.
Yeah, that's part of Bridgestone, was then handled by the model group. Do you know all the details on that? I mean, that's is that ESR 2 or 3? Okay, so that's part of the East Side Revitalization 2 and 3, which we are not we don't control that. That's controlled by an outside agency. We are a minority owner of that group, and only because of an extension, kind of goofy. It's part of what we are a party to what's called the Neighborhood Investment Partners. It's a NIP. NIP's the acronym for it, and that is a 501c3 corporation that we are a part of today, and they are the owners of that share, that interest in that, and they are leaving our portfolio by the end of the year. So we won't have anything to do with that after December 31st.
Yeah, bring operation like three. I mean, what did that about? It's got, overtime, and they told me, yeah, I don't have something.
Well, if I may, we do have other places like Academy Flats, which used to be the 5th District School, over on Woodburn and Holman, over that area there. There's like 26 units in there, I think. Is it 6 of those units? 6 of those units there are public housing. We also have the Emory Drive up off of Highland Avenue. There's like 16 units up there, they're public housing. Some are Section 8, and the rest are market rate apartments. So we do have, even River's Edge, we have, I think it's 40 units that are public housing there. So we're scattered throughout with additional housing, but not in large pockets like what we have here with City Heights.
Eventually, I don't have no more places that people might be in, that want a front yard and a backyard. So therefore, we don't want to bother no kids, don't bother no kids, don't bother growing up with back yard. You know what I mean? Because last year was right in front, so I like my front door, my back.
The closest thing we'll have with that is if we can find you something in Latonia. I mean, Gold Tower has the grounds around it, with gazebo out front, but not directly out.
Well,
All we have is what we have.
That's all
And
I'm
we
saying.
can't create
Yeah,
miracles,
yeah.
so, on nothing else, but we'll do, I mean, we'll continue the best we can with what we've got to offer. We don't have the answers for everything and everyone, I mean, we're limited by what we can do, you know, with the regulations we deal with.
Good second time of transit,
Okay, I got a question.
Well, you know, this, we recognize very much so, this is not a simple process for any one family. This is a traumatic experience. When folks are asked to give up their home, to go someplace else, that's hard for us to even swallow that, have to deal with that, because we are very understanding and sympathetic of the problem that exists. We don't take any joy in this. By the same token, when we got the physical needs assessment that was done a couple years ago, and then they revisited the same thing to verify the numbers, $52 million to bring the properties here up to code, and then another $32 million more or less to modernize them like what they should be. That's $82 million. We can go to Washington D.C. and stand on the front doors of the White House there, and we're not going to get $82 million. And besides that, at the end of the day, what would we have? We'd still have a barracks style setup up here, where people are, they had 366 units at one time, but we still had that number, but we had 1,000 residents here, 1,000 residents in this little pocket. I mean, they don't do public housing like that today. And so families do deserve better than that, than what we have to offer. And not to mention, you're not in close proximity to schools, you're not in close proximity to food, grocery stores, clothing stores, anything. And it's like an island on its own up here where nobody cares.
That's all that we love to have for everybody, care for, you can go put an application in place.
Yes.
That's all that.
Well, we'll do the best we can.
Okay, let's get the question.
Okay?
I had a question I wanted to ask.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so y'all moving us, cause I just moved here in March, and I was not under the impression that y'all was tearing this down. So I wanna know what's going on, that's why I came to the meeting. So I just moved here in March, and now I'm about to move out again.
Well, we've been talking about this for 2 years.
Well, when I moved in March, the rent office didn't tell me nothing about they closing down, they remodeling. I knew nothing about it. I just signed my lease as of March 21st this year. So I wanna know what's going on.
And we're here to answer you the best we can.
Yeah.
Our
So
application,
y'all gonna move us, y'all gonna pay for us to move, or?
I wish you
what?
came here earlier when we could answer some of those questions.
I got to get here the best of my ability. I couldn't get here.
Well, let me say this,
I had to go to
you're probably
the
gonna have,
city.
there's probably several questions you may
Yeah, I
have.
got a lot of
And-
questions. I wanna know because I'm just now starting my household. Like I said, I just moved here in March.
Okay.
So I'm just now pertaining to get my house together, and I don't wanna have to move a whole bunch of stuff if y'all tearing this down in a year or what's going on. Y'all need to let me know what's going on, but my lease is dated for March.
All right, that's a fair question. All right, so here's the deal. We had, when we first talked to the HUD, the folks about this process,
Okay?
we started talking about this process 2+ years ago, all right?
Yeah.
And so we had to go through all the process, all the requirements to get our data together before we could submit our application to HUD. And so we had submitted the application to HUD and it around the same time you moved in.
Yeah.
At the time, if I may, at the time, we had no idea because HUD told us it could take 3 months or it could take a couple years before we get an answer from them on whether or not they would even approve such a plan. So we were operating in the dark, but in the meantime, they told us we had to keep renting all the units out until our application.
I moved in March of this year. I just moved in March of this year, and I knew nothing about this.
All right.
I knew nothing about this. That ain't right.
I just moved all my shit in to move out again.
Well,
To move out again. Nah, that ain't right.
we will
I
stay
just moved
here.
in on March of this year. Y'all housing authority ain't right. Y'all should tell people, like, yeah, lady, you gonna move in, you gonna stay here for 6 months, and you gotta move out. I just moved here in March.
We didn't say you were moving out in 6 months.
Well, y'all telling me I gotta move and relocation and all of that.
And let me say
I don't know
this,
nothing about this, and they ain't nothing according to my lease. So I wanna know what's going on. Yes, I need to know the truth.
well, we were
I
happy to answer,
signed a lease for March.
we were happy to answer all your questions here if you want to sit down and stick around.
Nah, fuck you. Yeah, fuck you. You ain't shit. Y'all ain't tell me shit when I moved in. Y'all basically told me. Nigga, y'all should have fucking told me. I moved in, I moved out. Hell nah. Yeah. I moved in, I moved out. Y'all ain't shit.
Man, we'll have additional meetings
You
like.
ain't shit. You ain't shit, and ain't nobody gonna do shit. You ain't shit. Get her out of here.
This is unfortunately the sad part when someone walks in after we've made our presentation and we're trying to get through this whole cycle and give everybody a chance to answer the questions. But it's that's is what it is. Charles Bowles?
Thank you all very much. I think at this point, I was Ms. King was here to hear this. You all are closing the gap in terms of communicating this process. And I think that you all demonstrate more sensitivity now to the community than when I first started learning about this process. The language has changed there in terms of how you all are presenting to the community. These are our people here. When I first heard this right here process, it seemed like everybody was secondary. The President City Heights was secondary. They were considered our people. Our people were the people who, the new condominiums that are being built up in downtown Covington. Those were our people in Covington. That's what leadership was described. These folks up here are hard-working people that deserve all of this respect that they get. You know, because they are human beings. And for the humanity in this whole situation, what we've been asking for. And sometimes when we ask for stuff as a community, particularly Penny as a leader here in City Heights, my brother over here and other groups that are associated with this, sometimes we get pushback from leadership saying that you all are getting on our nerves, or why you all ask, how dare you all ask us questions, okay? We have a right to ask questions because we're concerned about the plight of these people here. Sometimes the people here don't have the language to describe what they're going through, but they're very emotional. And their emotions here are very high because they're unaware. This is a special circumstance. So what I'm going to ask the Housing Authority to do is look at every special circumstance in this process as possible. Even when we talked about the eliminating I'm going back to eliminating the debt. Special circumstances and vouchers. If that's special, then create a special circumstance for people not to have penalized for when they get ready to move or transition, but they gotta still pay stuff, but they can't get their deposits back for all those things. These are special circumstances. Last thing I say is I want to be questioned that the Section 8 office, during the time that Ms. Strauss was here, set up an office in that particular building as well to communicate to the people about vouchers and Section 8 here on site. Rather than them have to go down to the Section 8 office downtown. Bring that resource here in that particular office during 3 days a week or from 10 to 2 or whatever you gotta do. Let people know that that particular office is right there in the same area that Ms. Strauss is gonna be located. So you wanna bring all the services that people need as possible to this site, this location here because it's possible. Now the last, this right here too. I would like you all to set up a Section 8 resource fair. What that means is a Section 8 tenant resource fair. All the people you all know out there who are tenants or landlords of Section 8, if you all can have them under one roof here or somewhere where these residents can interact with these Section 8 landlords to ask them if they got these properties available, make them aware that these properties are available so they can have this interaction with them personally. Not to drive them around, taxi cab them around, all that stuff right there. No. Bring those folks here so they can have conversations with the residents about the housing that's available. And they not be housing the housing big or whatnot, given the opportunity to at least have the interaction and the information. And that's all I'll say, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bowles, thank you, that's, that's some very, very good comments. We obviously are good listeners, we have acknowledged that we know we have a lot to do yet, a lot of homework. I do like the idea of us reaching out to HUD, asking them about special waivers on the damages to a unit, for example. I have no problem with us asking that, making that request on the rent that they have with the residents. As far as the issues with, bringing up Section 8 and how they handle the program and so forth like that, I'm gonna have to rely on Kim and her, immediate supervisors, for example, because again, we, the Housing Authority, do not operate the Section 8 program. It is strictly operated by the City of Covington. We don't have anything to say about it. It would be Kim and the leadership downtown to how they want to handle it, if they want to make some exceptions. I like the idea about Section 8 being up here, maybe 2 or 3 days a week, whatever. The same as we have our staff that's going to be housed up here on a regular basis as well. I know Diana will do an excellent job up here working with the families, but we'll talk with Kim and she can talk with her staff about the possibility of what Section 8 can do to reach out a little further than everybody have to go downtown, but that would be something she would check with.
Can I interject? We're just a phone call away. I'm in the office room every day from 8 to 4:30. We don't even have a receptionist. Anybody who answers, we can take the call. You guys, it's not right to say, oh gosh, I don't know anything about Section 8 because we're not up here. We're always around. You guys can always call the office. Once we're getting to where we need to be. But it'll be, so think about it when you're like, you need to have a landlord resource fair. This is something that's gonna go on over 3 years.
So is that a no?
No, it's not a no, but just thinking it through, Mr. Bowles. So if we cycle 10 people every month, that would, that might be great. We have a landlord fair now, but we're not gonna have a landlord fair every month or anything like that, so.
Y'all got to really put something together. If I have not done that.
Mr. Bowles, we've done that a lot of times.
I know for 6 years. I know for 6 years. That's the reason why I wouldn't want to take the
We've had them before, they're called Super Saturday. What we do is we've had them on a Saturday, and we've advertised, and we've at that point, it was any family who had a voucher, and any landlord with property in Kenton County could come, and they'd kind of hook up. When the families walked in the door, we'd say, what's your voucher size? We'd give landlords little tents to put on the table saying, I've got a 2-bedroom unit or a 3-bedroom unit or whatever. So this is not a new idea to us. Something that we've done a lot previously. We've also had something called Section 8's Working Late, where we've let landlords come and they've been there and tenants have come into, or potentials have come in to hook up with them too. So this isn't a new idea, but what you're forgetting is none of this is gonna happen tomorrow. So it's a great idea, but we need to plan for the long game. So it's more than one fair, because we're talking, multiple residents and it would have to be multiple events. So we're not opposed to it.
I know, but I have concern sometimes about when these ideas are brought about. People who make decisions push back on it, as if they're not good ideas.
We've done this a lot.
We've done it a lot, but let's try to do it.
I don't remember y'all doing over here. I've been, like I said, I've been for 6 years. I remember y'all doing it.
Sir, you got a question?
So I think this might be a learning opportunity where it's something that we've done in the past, and so we might have to do it a little bit differently moving forward. So, and we are definitely open to working with, I think, community partners to see how that changed, because he's lived here for 6 years and he doesn't know anything. Not to say that you haven't done it, but to say,
did you have a voucher?
Let me finish.
I had a voucher before I moved up.
So we're not going to put blame on the residents, but this is a perfect time to that some of those ways that we have reached out in the past, we have to change the way we do that in the future.
Well, this is a special circumstance, okay? I'm hearing the word special since purpose. So I'm looking at all the specialness that can come out of this, the special creativity, the special difference, the special way of thinking that can come out of this, the possibilities. So this could be a model of something that other communities can use, you all can, move this process. I know you got the knowledge, intelligence, skills, and resources to pull it together. I'm very confident in that right there, confident in you all abilities and you all, professionalism. So I just, just like, Brother Green was saying, these things can happen, they have to be good, different going forward. We talk about things, as you know tonight, I've been talking about the past, I've been talking about trying to.
I think your point's well taken, and I do believe there are special circumstances here. This is a special situation. And again, this staff here, part of this meeting is here to hear ideas. The items you brought up to talk about right here, we're gonna go back and we'll hash through some of these ideas. What can we do better? How can we reach everyone in a more systematic way that's easier for the residents and more beneficial to the residents? We're always gonna be opening up ideas. I said we're gonna go over the next several weeks developing a plan that we think will work. And that doesn't mean it's gonna be set in stone. That means we could still be open to other ideas that may come along that we haven't thought about. None of us have been through this before.
It's only been 12 days.
Yeah. 12 days.
Really.
But we
only got approval 12 days ago.
Yeah, like I
We
said.
don't have it all figured out yet.
Like I said earlier, if we wanted to ideally wait until we had more answers to everything, we probably would be having a meeting for 3 weeks. But in the meantime, the residents up here would have heard that we got approval from the HUD offices in Washington, and all of a sudden, a week goes by and you don't hear from us. What's the housing authority doing? 2 weeks goes by, we haven't said nothing. 3 weeks go by. Well, think about the rumors that are on the street at that point. And we would be talked about in a very negative way. So we decided it was safer to go ahead and let's have an early meeting like this, update everybody as much as we know today, and then let you know that we are going to stay on top of this. There'll be more daily information fed, especially to the website. Anytime that John, we feel a need for posting these orange flyers on everyone's doors or in their mailboxes, we're gonna do that. Bottom line is we're gonna stay on top of it all the way through. We got more ideas. City Future staff is going to have some just additional ideas that how we might work together better than we are right now. What can we do differently than what we're doing? How can we make it better? And so all of us to get our heads together. The staff right here is from, Brighton Center, the City's Futures group. Talia is in the back right here. She's a major component for Brighton Center. She's the one that's in charge of a lot of issues over there. But she's here to hear some of these ideas and thoughts too. So she's going to work with us. So this is going to be a community effort, not just the housing authority alone, and not Section 8 or the city coming by themselves. We're going to work together as a team.
I did not mean that, my comment as an attack on Ms. Phillips, I apologize that it came out like that.
Thank you, sir.
I know your hard work, I know your commitment, what you do, so I apologize that it seems attack. Just please take our suggestions.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
So we can see,
Yeah.
so the community can see its, suggestions in the process.
Right.
Right now, sometimes it's the housing authority's, suggestions or creativity in this process without the community's recommendations or input or.
Yeah.
So.
Well, we tried to anticipate a lot of the problems ahead of time. We spoke to Duke Energy about the forgiveness of the debt bills, the debts of invoices that are past due 2, 3, 5 years ago, whatever. We had that conversation with Duke Energy 6 months ago, trying to anticipate how much do people owe. Maybe it was more than 6 months ago, might have been a year ago now, I don't remember. But the point is, we were trying to anticipate what would the needs be of the residents. What immediate help would they need us to get on top of? And we tried to evaluate those. We didn't have to include the residents on that kind of discussion because we already knew the issues that everyone faces, or at least a lot of the issues. And so we tried to anticipate some of them. We worked on some of those, trying to formulate ideas. And because we didn't know how Duke Energy would respond, we don't know how the Northern Connecticut Water District will respond. So we've already been trying to reach out to them and try and see how we can partner together, make sure that the residents get their debts paid off, and how much can we provide in the way of assistance. And it's not just the housing authority, but could the city of Covington help us with some of the CARES Act funds that they have available to them? We don't have additional CARES Act funds. And by the way, our requirements and the city's requirements are different on how that money is spent. So there's some differences there as well. But ours was primarily, a lot of it was spent on creating internet here for our children. When the schools when the COVID hit, and our children, unlike many other families, didn't have access to internet or computers. And so that was our first priority as our kids that lived here. And so we addressed that, and we've got the internet service now covered for a 3-year. We paid for the first 3 years for all of our residents here. So again, anticipating what's going on, what can we do, how can we be ahead of the curve instead of behind the curve, why weren't we thinking in advance? So, but we still know we still need feedback. We still need input from the residents. We still need input from your group, NAACP, all the other organizations. We need more input from Brighton Center. We need more input from where Penny went with the resident council. They're the immediate ears to the ground here, and so we need to stay in touch with them on a daily basis. What are you hearing? What can we do better? So we have a long way to go. I can assure you we're going to give it our best. If that, folks, I think we've had enough for tonight. We're going to have continued meetings down the road. I don't have exact dates yet, the next group of round of meetings, but we will keep you all duly informed as much as possible. And thank you for coming tonight, okay? Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
If anyone wants to stick around for any other questions, please feel free to ask any of us up.